Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to episode 2 of my apparently going to be series of videos called Dear White People. My first episode of Dear White People, I asked the question, why are we afraid of books? And this was a direct kind of reference to the, efforts in Virginia to elect Governor Youngkin based on the idea of him banning critical race theory and giving parents the choice to prevent their kids from being able to read certain books in class, which might make them feel uncomfortable. And I asked seriously the question, what are we afraid of there? Why does the past make us uncomfortable? Why do these ideas, being taught in school make us uncomfortable? Why have we allowed this made-up issue over critical race theory being taught in public schools, where I can assure you critical race theory is not being taught in public schools? Why have we let this, let loose the powers of reactionary censorship? Why have we done all those things? And since Governor Youngkin took control of the government of Virginia, he's done nothing but pursue these kind of things. And we see efforts in state legislatures all over the place to rewrite state curriculum, to take out things which would, in some ways diminish people's love of the United States, or denigrate the founding fathers, or cover material about the civil rights movement or the United States racist history, which makes students uncomfortable, or pull books from the shelves of libraries and ban books from libraries. We've even seen a book burning in the United States conducted by a religious leader, where they burned books that were controversial. So, what I talked about in the first episode of this is clearly now coming to pass. For all the hand-wringing we see about the so-called, Twitter speak and the Twitter mob, silencing people and canceling people, what we're seeing now is the reality of that situation. That when we allow our fear to empower people with actual power, we see real censorship, we see real canceling, we see a real effort to rewrite history again, to make white people more comfortable. And that's terrifying and dangerous and far worse than anything that might have ever happened to, I don't know, Woody Allen or J.K. Rowling. So that's one of the things that I was thinking about. And one of the other things I've been thinking about on this issue is that I think there's something that we as white people have to kind of guard against, and that is a guarding against relaxing and assuming that problems have been solved. The murder of George Floyd really, I think, is one of those events in American history that united people across racial lines in demands for justice. And when Floyd's murderer was convicted of murder and sent to prison, there was massive relief among, the non-racist people in the United States of America, regardless of race. There was massive relief that justice had been done. But one of the things there's a real history of in the United States is that when white people, band together with African American people and other people of color to, demand justice, once that one thing has been achieved, white people have a tendency to say, okay, well, everything should be fine now. African American people should stop complaining. They're going too far. They're making me feel bad for being a racist. And look, I supported the whole effort to convict George Floyd's to convict George Floyd's murderer, and I marched in BLM things, but now things are going too far with all this critical race theory or whatever else it is that white people are afraid of. And what we see, I think, oftentimes is a natural kind of swing away from this natural but unfortunate swing away from this commitment to racial justice, equality, and equity, and back to kind of more of a comfortable point for white Americans. White Americans may be afraid that if we go too far, then somehow their power, their position, themselves will be forced to question themselves, or they will lose control of some amount of power, and we see this, scramble, this reactionary scramble to regain that power. And I see more and more white people saying, I'm not a racist, you shouldn't be talking to me, you shouldn't be making me feel bad. Well, let me just point something out to you, and something that I've had to confront, and I really think that all white Americans have to confront. And that's this single reality: not being a racist is the minimum achievement. Not being a racist is the minimum thing you have to do to be a decent human being. It's not an achievement to pat yourself on the back for. It's not an achievement, however you arrive there, through contemplation or through good parenting. It's not an achievement to say, okay, well, I've accomplished this incredible thing. You should now leave me alone because I'm not a racist. I accept the fact that you're not a racist. I won't argue that you're a racist. I'm going to ask you is a C grade on one of the most important issues in the United States of America really enough for you? Is just being minimally decent, is that really something you are proud of and or something you're confident enough in? I've seen many people, and all these people in the media and online and other places, hand-wringing about, all these white people are out there asking themselves questions and doing all this soul-searching about racism. Isn't it ridiculous they do that? Why is that ridiculous? Why would it be ridiculous for white people who live in a racist society to think about their own positions, to reflect on their own reactions in an attempt to drive out vestiges of racism which may have been in place in them culturally or parentally or whatever else, to drive those things out? Why is that ridiculous? Why are white people hand-wringing something over, efforts on their own part to eliminate racist ideas? Why is that a subject for mockery? I mean, who out there is really that confident in their minimum achievement of non-racism that they can't stand to do some self-contemplation, to do a self-check on whether or not they really are living the ideas of not being racist they claim they are? And then further from that, where is the harm in white people attempting to do something to not only not be racist, to advance the cause of racial justice, racial equity, racial equality, on a broader scale, to break down the institutionalized racism we still see remaining in the United States of America? Why is that a subject for mockery? Why is that something that other white people look at white people and say, oh, well, that's just white guilt, You just feel guilty because you're white. You let black people made you feel guilty for being white, and that's why you're doing this, and it's all just for show. It's a kind of a virtue signaling thing that you're doing, and you're not really serious. You're just doing this because you think it'll get you more views, or you think it'll, make you feel better or make you look like a better person. Well, let me just point something else out to you, and I'll use myself as an example. I do not feel guilty about slavery. I do not feel guilty about Jim Crow. I don't feel guilty about those things because I didn't do those things. My reaction, my effort at self-examination, at kind of what I see as a form of self-improvement and self-questioning, is not driven by guilt. I don't feel guilty about the things that other people did. I feel guilty about the occasions in my life where I know that I failed, where I didn't speak out, where I didn't do what I was supposed to do, where I didn't do what I know was the right thing to do. Those things I feel guilty about. But I don't feel guilty about things that happened before. I do feel responsible. And I'll talk to you about this responsibility in a minute, but let me just point out something about guilt. When somebody feels guilty, they try to change the subject, they try to divert attention, they try to blame others, they try to cover up, they try to hide what's happened, they try to, self-justify. That's what guilty people do. I'm doing none of that. And, people like me who are kind of committed to, rooting out remaining racism and hopefully doing something about it, those people are not expressing guilt. The people who are afraid of critical race theory and trying to remove the teaching of civil rights issues and our racist past from the teaching of history in the United States, those people are behaving guilty. They want to cover it up. They want to change it. They want to blame somebody else. They're using fear to suppress the truth because the truth makes them feel guilty. That's white guilt. What I feel is responsibility. And somebody asked me this question not long ago. I think it was on Twitter. Why do I as a white man feel responsible for fixing things? Why do I as a white man feel some responsibility for doing something, whatever it is, to try to change things? And the reason I feel responsible is because the truth of the matter is, the United States of America, people who look like me are still the people with power. We are still the people who have power, and therefore, as someone who has that power, I feel a responsibility to, in whatever small ways I can, through donations, through political activism, through making these videos, I feel a responsibility to try to change things because I have the power to do that. I am in a privileged position because of who I am. I've never faced racial discrimination. but I know that it exists, and I feel a responsibility for doing what I can to try to eliminate it. So that means that I do several things. Since this is a BookTube channel, let me just mention that I do intentionally read more diversely. I see this concept mocked all the time. Oh, well, you're just, reading diversely to say you have. And, I'm sure that there are some elements of that, maybe in what I do and maybe what other people do. But when I read diversely, I'm intentionally trying to break away from the person I was before. I'm intentionally trying to expand my base of knowledge. Reading diversely doesn't make me a better person. Reading diversely doesn't make me, someone committed to or working to end racial inequality and to create racial equity in the United States of America. But reading diversely allows me to expand my understanding of how big the problem is and of where that problem may still exist in me. So, you can mock reading diversely all you want to, you can call it virtue signaling all you want to, but, nobody suggests that there's anything wrong with having a checklist of classics. If I told you I wanted to read, all the major classics of Greek and Roman literature, and I had a checklist and I was working my way down there, no one would ever say, oh, well, you're just, that's just virtue signaling. You're just doing that so other people think, to make yourself look good to other people. But if I say I'm doing the exact same thing to read more diversely, all of a sudden people assume that, this is an element of white guilt or something like that. So, reading diversely to me is not about checking things in a box. It's about, making me more aware of how big the problem is so that I can do whatever small things I can do. And I don't make any grand claims for this video or anything else I do, so that I can do whatever I can do to try to change things. Because to me and for me, not being a racist is not good enough. Anyway, there you go. Appreciate you watching. Look forward to your comments in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching.